here to help you with breeze. Planting seeds and teaching skills. Teachers turn schoolyards to dreams. Who hates school gardens with ease?
Hello and welcome to School Gardens with Ease podcast. I'm your host, Leila Mireskandari, and this is episode number 28. I have to be very honest with you. I had this long list of topics I wanted to record one by one for you. And today I went to that list, and even though it's a juicy list and all of the topics on it are important, I didn't feel like talking about any of them. Why? Because my mind these days is all on my annual free 70-minute webinar on growing school gardens that starts on December 1st, which is 2 days after the release of this episode. So, after struggling with trying to stay on plan and failing at it, I thought it would be most authentic actually to tell you what's on my mind. So, I want to tell you all about what's on this webinar. It will obviously be shorter version, but it might be good enough for those of you who don't have 70 minutes to spare for the webinar, or you might like this short version and you decide that you want to invest that 70 minutes of your time to learn more on the webinar. So, here we go. One of the most important things I want to achieve with this free material is to empower not only educators, but also parents, because I have a soft spot for parents. I started this journey as a parent. To grow educational food gardens, yes, but also to do it with ease. Hence, the name of this podcast, School Gardens with Ease, as well as the name of the webinar, still School Gardens with Ease. Ease is at the core of my methods. I started this journey not as an educator back then, but as a concerned mother. Concerned that my kids are not learning how to grow their own food, especially after I found out that if we work with nature, we can do it with ease. That I learned from permaculture. I've heard many people calling permaculturists the lazy gardeners, and although sometimes that's said to send an insult, and it's not entirely true, but there is truth to it. Because permaculture is all about making the gardener's or the farmer's life easier by getting help from nature and working with nature as opposed to, fighting against nature. It's all about growing food without unnecessary hard work. Call me lazy all you want, but I just love that idea. So, when I started teaching gardening to kids in 2013, I did it because I tried permaculture in my own backyard and it proved to be really easy for me. And for me, I didn't even know the color of my thumbs because when people say I have gray thumbs, that's usually because they have at least tried to grow something and they have killed it or something, right? I hadn't even done that before I started to grow permaculture style in my backyard, and it was easy for me. So definitely it was going to be easy for everyone else. And I was working a very demanding corporate job as a software developer back then, and I was raising two kids, which meant I didn't have a lot of time on my hands. And if it was easy for me, then it should be easy for everyone, right? So I was excited about growing food in schools and showing the next generation how easy it can be to grow food. But I was up to a huge disappointment being naive and thinking it would be as easy in a school. A school garden is so much more complicated than a home garden, and the main point of it, which is education, well, I have to say, I completely underestimated that aspect of it, the teaching part, and also the logistical complications of a school. I know the teachers who are listening to this are like, "Psh, these parents, they have no clue how tough teaching is." And you're right, I had no clue, but I had a fresh pair of eyes and a strong determination. So Even though that first garden we grew at my first school turned out not so bad, and we did grow some food, which got the kids and their parents super excited, it was nowhere near my standards, mainly because it was not easy. It took a lot out of me and a few other parents. It was just a nightmare to maintain. But I was also not a quitter. I never was. Plus, I was a software developer. My brain was wired to solve problems, and this was a problem for me to solve, and I was determined to solve it. So, I kept going. I took my programs to more and more schools. I quit my corporate job. I worked with community gardens so to see if I can take any of their methods and bring it into school to make it easier to grow in schools. I brought more and more of permaculture principles into my school gardens. I took my master's degree in environmental studies focusing on food education. I ran my programs as after school, as in school, in gardening lunch clubs, with one time planting events with parents, and I helped hundreds of teachers and parents grow school gardens. And after over a decade, I have solved this problem. My school gardens now produce abundance of food with an unbelievable ease. So, I want to share with you here my secret to success so that you can replicate it. And of course, I dig deeper into it on the free 70-minute School Gardens with Ease webinar, which I run annually, and the link of it for this year is in the show notes. Now, an abundant but easy school garden is one that's 100% built, grown, and maintained by the students, 100% led by teachers during class time, and only supported by parents. And the support needs to be in a specific way. While everyone is super careful, they don't go over each other's toes. Now, to those parents who are listening to this, don't get offended. We're not throwing you away. Your help is still needed, but not directly in the garden. You gotta back off a little. Believe me, I have a soft spot for you. I was a concerned parent. I wanted to grow a school garden in my daughter's school. Okay? So, yeah, don't get offended. But we gotta do this right. And to the teachers listening to this, no, we are not washing our hands and dumping a huge difficult project on your shoulders. Remember, I don't do difficult. I only do easy. We have a joke in our household. Actually, I am like, if I cannot do something, I won't do it. My 94-year-old mother in law who's moved in with us says, let's do this or let's do that step when we're, I don't know, cooking this food. And my first response is, can we skip doing that? Or is that really necessary? And if the answer is no, not really necessary, or if it can be done in a different, easier way, we're not doing it. Same applies to my methods of growing educational food gardens. Now, another aspect of my success with growing easy gardens is, of course, that such gardens should be built for resilience with permaculture principles and techniques, working with nature, not against it. If any of these aspects are not done right, for example, if the garden is grown by parents and outside of class time, and also it's a conventional raised bed garden with monoculture patch of just tomatoes, let's say, it will not be easy. It will result in burnout for teachers or parents or both. And the worst part is it will not contribute much to education. In simple words, the kids will not learn much. So, to quickly review what I just babbled about so far, to grow an easy educational food garden, you should make sure the project is led by teachers, all done by students, hands on, 100% hands on education, and the parents, administrators, or custodians are there to cheer them up and help with fundraising, summer maintenance for parents, holding time and space for the teachers to connect the garden to their curriculum and run the project during class time. And that is the help that the administrators can provide. And the custodians, like, if the hose breaks, if there is something that needs to be installed, stuff like that, they can help with that. But that's it. Now, Why, might you ask? Why can I not go and, help grow this garden as a parent? Because the main goal of a school garden is to teach kids. It's not to entertain you. It's not, this is not a community garden. And you are not an educator. Even if you are a teacher in another school, you are a parent in your child's school, and education is not your responsibility here. School gardens are modern hands on learning tools and should be utilized by the teachers of that school. And you might be like, okay, but all I want to do is to grow the garden and then they can utilize it. But you're missing the point. Growing the garden is part of the teaching because we are teaching how to grow food and where it comes from. It's not your job to grow the garden. It's not even the teacher's job to grow the garden. It's the students. Or if you are a teacher listening to this, you might be asking, why can I not grow the garden at lunchtime with a gardening club, for example? Why should I add another subject to what I have to cover in my curriculum when my plate's already full in my classroom? How's that going to be easier? Well, that's going to be a lot harder to do it at lunchtime clubs because these clubs are not as structured as your classroom. Your students are not committed to the activities as much as they might be to those done in your classroom. This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be extra. This is not, they don't feel as much that it is part of their education. One day you get 10 students attending the club, another day you get 40. You can't plan the work if you don't know how many hands in the garden you're going to have. Growing a garden requires persistent and timely tasks and chores during a span of weeks and weeks. Your class time is much less interrupted by extracurricular activities or rotational yard duty and other things than your lunchtime is. Plus, you'll have to organize and manage that club, and that's extra work for you. Plus, that's your lunchtime. I mean, come on, you're supposed to be eating lunch. It's much, much easier if it's all done during your class time. Trust me, I've worked with hundreds of teachers. So, you might be asking, why can I not just, ask the parents to come grow this garden with us on a weekend, or after hours on a day, or even during the day, one day at a planting event? We'll have a lot of fun with a lot of community engagement and plant it and be done with it. Well, are you going to be done with it really? Not really. A garden doesn't thrive like that. It needs time. There are chores. Someone still have to be on top of this project, taking care of this garden. Why can't parents do that? Well, someone has to organize and supervise and run after volunteers and make sure that it's done and it's done right. I mean, it sounds easier at first. It really is very hard. Somebody's going to get burnt out. It's either you, the teachers, or the parents, or both. Plus, what good does that bring to kids? They don't learn how to grow food with a one time planting event. I mean, who are we kidding? The best, most educational, most empowering, inspiring, and exciting way to do this is to do it during your prep and class time. And all of it can be done like that. Even the designing and the building of the garden. You don't need adults for it. Don't underestimate the collective power of your students. The key to doing it in your class time in a way that it doesn't become one project on top of everything else is to connect it to your curriculum in math, science, language arts, community, sociology, geography, I don't know, indigenous studies, etc. Connect it to it. So you'll be spending the same time that you need to spend on math, growing the garden. For that, you need lesson plans. Now, on the School Gardens with Ease annual free webinar, I tell you how to do this step by step. I also even share with you some permaculture techniques that are super fun and super easy for your kids to actually build their garden in a resilient way, as I was just mentioning on the webinar. And I will also, tell you how to avoid all the mistakes that everyone else is making, how not to do it, especially how to do it with ease. I also give you 3 of my guides that will help you implement what you learn on the webinar. as a gift if you stick with me and spend those 70 minutes of your precious time till the end of the webinar. So you get also those. And the webinar is recorded and runs 3 times a day starting on December 1st all the way to mid-February. Go ahead and find the link to it. It's 100% free, and the link is in the show notes. It's for you if you're a teacher, and it's for you if you're a parent. It's jam-packed with a lot of information. I can't wait to virtually see you on the webinar. You've listened to the entire episode, and for that, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And please share this episode with other teachers who might be interested in this topic. See you next week for a new episode.